Alright, so let's continue. So before we jump onto the part where we are able to switch between the panels, like from cart to the enter details, before we do that, I think it's the right time to first work on the cart functionality where we are able to add items to the cart. So let's do that thing first, and then we'll come back to this panel and do the rest of the things. So let's head back to the editor, and over here within the index.js in the pages directory, here we have the cart panel. So I'm just going to comment it out for the time being so that we are back to where we were, like where we have all the items and stuff. So that's looking good. And now let's work on the add to cart. But before we do that, I think we should be having a structure. We should know how exactly we want this thing to be. So for that, I'm gonna use the Jamboard. So I have my iPad right over here. So let's just kind of see how exactly we can structure the cart. Now the thing to keep in mind is that for the cart that we will be having, the state, we will be using the component based state, which is the use state in this case. We're going to use that for the entire thing. Again, it's a pretty simple application. I don't want to kind of complicate it by introducing any other state management like Redux or Zustand, which I've been using for a while now. So let's just keep it simple and let's use the component based state. So over here, let me first check. Okay, I hope that there is no latency issue. Well, there is not. Okay, that's perfect. So now the thing is, let me check it again. Okay, perfect. So the cart that we are going to work on, the cart functionality. So basically we need to have a structure. So what I think is that the cart, we can have it as an object, like the entire thing. Initially, obviously, it's going to be empty, but as we add items, that's the thing that we need to think about. So over here, let me actually open up Figma for you to better understand. Again, everything that you see, it's all transparent. I have not I haven't given any thought on the cart structure, so I'm just recording the raw thing, like the thinking process which goes into it. So the thing is that when the user clicks on add to cart, which is this button, then we need to update the state where we add the item to the state. So for that, we can have an object, and when the user clicks on add, sorry for the 1 second. So when the user clicks on the add button, then we can update the state where obviously we're going to spread out the old state so that we retain the items which are already in the cart, but we also need to update the cart, obviously. So for that, over here for the key we can have the item name over here, and as a value we can have the quantity, which in this case, when the user clicks on add, obviously it means that the item is not already in the list, like it's not already in the cart. Otherwise they would not see the add button, but they will be seeing that the minus plus button, like the quantity manager that we built. So obviously if they're clicking on add, it means it's not already in the cart. So we just need to add it in such a way, and then there would be another function sorry about that. There would be another function for these two specifically. So if the user clicks on minus, then we will be reducing the quantity. However, if the quantity is 1, all right, so if it's 1, then it means that we need to remove the item from the cart. So that's that. And similarly with the +1, we will be just increasing the quantity. So that's the thing. So now that we have it in this way, I guess we can actually jump back to the cart functionality and wrap it up. So now let's head back and let's implement the state. So over here we are already importing the use state. So let's have a state. Now there is a reason why we are creating the state over here in our home page, so that we can easily share the same thing with the books that we have over here, which means this component, as well as with the cart panel. So that's the reason why we are having it over here. So let's do that, and we're going to name it as cart and the function to be as set cart, and by default is going to be an empty object. So now let's create a function which will be called when the user adds any item to the cart. So it's gonna be handle add item to cart, or yeah, I think that would work. Handle add item to cart. So it's gonna take a single argument, which would be the name, and then we will be calling the set cart function, where we're gonna pass down a function where the argument is sorry about that, where the argument is the old state. So we, in order to make sure that we retain the previous cart state, let's just spread it out, and then using the square brackets we're gonna pass down name and set the value of it to be 1. So that's that. So now let's pass down this function first, and then we're gonna kind of create the other functions. So over here I'm gonna pass it down as add item to cart, which is gonna be this one, and then let's get to the books component, where we will be destructuring. Let me just see. Yep, these are the other two. So we are gonna destructure the function that we are passing, and over here on the book item that we have, which is this one, we're gonna pass down the on click on click. So there is a bit of prop drilling that we are supposed to do. So the thing is that this on click that we are passing to the book item, we will be destructuring it, and we're going to bind it with the button that we have over here. So over here we can kind of structure it right over here, so that we don't have to call the function with a name like from the book item, but instead we can just call this function directly, because we have the name which we need. So over here we're going to pass down a callback, and we're going to call the add to item cart function, and we're going to pass down the book.name in such a way. So now let's save it and let's get to the book item. Again, we need to destructure it in such a way. Obviously we can kind of avoid sorry about my dry throat. So obviously we can avoid all this prop drilling if we were using context, but then again, let's just keep it simple and this would work. So over here we have the on click, and now on the button that we have over here, we can pass down the on click and bind it in this way. So now let's head back to the index.js and let's log this cart for the time being in such a way. And now that I think of it, we'll also have to pass down the cart itself, because we would need that in the book item to see whether the item is already added in the cart. So let's just pass it down as well in such a way, and let's save it and let's see whether we are able to add items to the cart. So over here, as you can see, currently by default it is empty. So I'm gonna don't worry about this, we will be fixing it for the responsiveness. So now if I click over here, we can see that the cart gets updated, and there we have the item. So that's beautiful, and we can add more items as well. So that is great. Alright, so that completes this part, and now we can conditionally render the quantity manager that we built in the panel. So for that, let's get to the books once again, and over here we'll also be getting the cart. So that's fine, that's great. And now what we can do, right over here we can say already in cart, something like this, which would be a boolean value, and we're gonna take this into consideration while deciding which thing to show, whether the add to cart button or the quantity manager. So in order to make sure this thing, what we can do, so we have this object, the cart, which is an object containing all the books. So the keys are the book name. All right, so the keys are the book name. So what we can do, name, you don't have to do this, by the way, I'm just testing something out. So that's like the object. So we can do object.keys, pass down the object, and we can use includes. I think that would work. And if we pass down something else, it would be false. But if we pass on something which is in the list, well, that didn't work. Okay, so but why though? So the object is this, right? So dot keys, this would return back an array, and we are checking this thing out. Technically it should work, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Oh, obviously we have to pass down the key, which in this case is name. So yeah, in that case it will be true. So that's that. All right, so now what we can do is we can directly use object.keys, and we can pass down cart using the includes, and we can just check whether the book.name, the item which we are currently mapping over, like the current iteration thing. So we are just checking that part. So this thing would either be false or true, a boolean value obviously. So now let's head to the book item. Let's again destructure this thing already in the cart, and where we have the add to cart button right over here, let's check this thing. So if it is already in the cart, then we have to show the quantity manager. What was the name of it? Yep, that's what it is, quantity manager, in this way. I'm not sure how it looks over here. Well, that looks good actually. Pretty decent. I think we can fix the font thing which is going on, plus maybe increase the size of the icons. How about that? Let's do that in this video itself. Quantity manager, and where we have the typography, I'm gonna pass down the class name to be of Lato. Let's see. So that's good. And I think the font, like the icons, look pretty decent. We don't have to do much about it. I think that would work. Initially I was thinking of changing it conditionally, but I think this would work. So let's keep it like that. So now let's see if I click over here, what's gonna happen. Ta-da, that's working. So that's beautiful. So like there are a lot of things which are still left, but I'm gonna cut down the video right now. So let's continue with the same thing in the next one. Again, thank you for watching.